Tuesday, June 22nd, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Monee Village Board. If you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston. Present. Ward. Here. Pop.
Here.
Racick. Gonzalez. Here. Great.
Here. We have to present. I just want to clarify the process on this.
For the public hearing?
Yeah, so, okay, so I'll entertain a motion to go into the public hearing pertaining to the proposed budget.
I'll entertain that motion.
Second.
Raisik and Horn. Okay. At this time, I'll open the floor to public comment pertaining to the budget specifically.
Yes, sir. Was there a roll call on that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Racick.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
And Holston.
Yes.
As a matter of understanding here, this is not, we're not actually voting on the budget at this time. We're merely having a public hearing, so anybody who from the public wants to discuss the issue specifically, if anything has been posted on the budget that's been available since, I think, April 29th, has the opportunity to say something from the public. Again, we're not voting on the budget right here in this subsection of the agenda. This is just a public comment.
What publications has the budget been put into?
The Tribune.
Why?
Why what?
Why the Tribune?
It has circulation in our area, and we had previously used Country Market, but Country Market is not actively serving Monee anymore.
We have the newspaper that, well, I guess that'll come under new business.
We could.
I don't feel like we've put this out the way we should.
Well, we do make sure we do follow the state laws in regards to
Chicago, you might have followed the state law, but the Chicago Tribune doesn't get to the people of Monee. The debt goes to everybody in Monee.
I'm sorry, correction, did it go through the Daily Southtown? Or the
It did,
Tribune?
which is part of the Chicago Tribune.
Okay, so. All right,
Mayor? I'm sorry.
go ahead, Larry.
If I may, just to let the record reflect too, we did have it, as Michelle indicated, it was duly published. It was available for public inspection pursuant to state law. We did post it, so from a notice standpoint, everything's been done pursuant to the code. As the mayor indicated, this is just for public input. If the board has any, if the public has any comments, it's appropriate to make it at this point in time. By law, we have to have a public hearing, which we are. If the board deems appropriate, we pass it tonight, the ordinance, then we'll file it, Darrell will file it with the county, then we have the budget duly adopted. But by law, it's got to be done by the end of the first quarter of each fiscal year.
Well, I concur with Trustee Holston. If I'm going to say, I think local newspapers, it should be put in that too.
Southtown.
If I may, on the same subject, instead of staying here, I did have a conversation with Darrell, and gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, are we going to discuss this later on in the evening behind closed doors?
Let me clarify, that sounds awful weird. We're limited in what we're allowed to discuss in executive session, is the operative word there, and that's limited to matters of personnel and things of that sort. So in that regard, yes, we can have some discussion pertaining to matters of personnel, as it even affects the budget, I believe, is prudent. That's fine. As a reminder, all the trustees have had a copy of the budget since April 29th. And I believe it's been requested on multiple times if they had any comments or questions to bring that to Ruben for my attention, and I believe some of them have reached out to Daryl as well, which is all fine. But we've had opportunity almost 2 months now, and where we had meetings specifically regarding the budget, and you know, we didn't go line by line like we had in the past, but we've had it there for any questions pertaining to any situations anybody had. I'm not trying to push anything through, we've had ample opportunity to have discussion. Now, at this point, abiding by the criteria of, Larry, I'm not on this, on the state laws or requirement, we have to have things posted.
Yes, sir.
A month ago, I believe, we indicated that we were going to have this meeting tonight for the public hearing. Any changes to the budget itself would, I believe, would precipitate the requirement to have it reposted and have a new hearing.
Either that or continue the hearing. Correct.
Okay. So, so that's just kind of where we're at on it. This, right now, this isn't just merely a matter of allowing the public to have comments on the budget that was presented and made readily available to the entire public.
May I?
Yes, please.
The one, we do have under my agenda to pass the ordinance. What you do as the board, when you pass the budget, all you're doing is allocating X amount of dollars per line item. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to spend that, but by law, you've got to show the county and the taxpayers how much you have allocated for that. It doesn't mean you're going to spend it, but it does mean in the event you needed the money, it's there. And that's why they don't like the villages or towns, for that matter, transferring items from one category to another. You could transfer from one, not fund, but there's a specific way of doing it.
Within the fund, you're okay with that.
Exactly.
Right.
But what we're doing tonight, just, we gotta have a budget on file, otherwise it'll be not in accordance with state law. You get the budget on file, Daryl and myself will sign off, everything was done properly, but the budget just allocates X amount of dollars per line item. So when we go in August or September, there's a line item, we'll say what's in the budget, and it was there.
I mean, our goal is always to understand what's on the budget, but the budget as presented is a balanced budget on each of the funds. And that's been our goal for the last 3 years. So I'm pleased with that, you know, and couldn't do it without you guys. And I do appreciate the feedback. That's really good. At this point here, anybody from the public want to convey any comments pertaining to the proposed budget?
I just grabbed this, and look, Florida Snow, 25718 Shinnecock. I just grabbed this today. The video game that, there's nothing in here for 2016 or 17.
It's a different.
Is it, that's why it went, did it go someplace else?
It went somewhere else.
Yeah, building department.
What?
Parks.
Parks Department, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew it'd be an easy one.
I have most of them memorized, but I actually didn't know where that one was. Anybody else? Okay. With no one further from the public concerned regarding the budget, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Grady and Trustee Grazek. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pop,
Yes.
Grayson,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Holston.
Yes.
Yes.
At this point in the meeting, we will turn to open to the public other agenda items. Only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes from the podium and reading the others, please. Anything pertaining to the rest of the agenda? Okay. At this point, we'll go on to letter G, consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Gonzalez?
Second.
Gray? Roll call, please.
Trustee Racick,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray. Yes. Olson,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, do you have anything in your report?
No report, sir.
I believe some of you may have received in the mail, just as a side note, I believe there's a veterans thing going. I don't have it here in my packet either, I just want to make sure everyone's aware of it. State Rep DeLuca is having a veterans event. Michelle, do you have a date on that?
Is that one?
Is it outside in the hallway there? Okay, that's fine. Just want to make sure you'll know that. All right, under the mayor's report, I'd like to make a recommendation for the approval of the appointment to Planning and Zoning Commission of Mr. Syd Dresback.
Make that motion.
I'll second that.
Horn and Gonzalez. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
and Racick.
Yes.
Larry, I believe it'd be appropriate for the next planning commission to have him sworn in at that next
Yes.
meeting. Okay, that'd be fine.
Is it full commission again now?
It is.
Who's the replacing person?
Mike, I believe. I think we've had a vacancy since Mike, a while back. Next, we have an ordinance, I don't believe it got presented that way, but it's trustee Racick and trustee Horn, one pertaining to police, one pertaining to financial impact of this. There is a need, many of you will recall, I was pretty adamant about this, that we needed to recruit more part-timers. Not to displace any of the full-timers, but we needed to recruit more part-timers for our police department as we do in other departments. So that it allows a little bit of a buffer in the event that somebody is scheduled off for injury or whatever other issues. I still believe the significance and the importance of bringing on additional part-timers. But when I found out recently that we've had some, it seems like an ongoing cycle of officers in a very vulnerable situation with the type of work that they do and everything else, and it's important for us to make sure that we're not straining their abilities anymore by having them work perpetually long days without breaks. I found out that we've had some of our officers working 11 days straight. That doesn't give them much time to relax and be well suited to continue working. And as much as they like the overtime, I'm sure it's also not necessarily the healthiest thing for them to be working like that, nor is it financially responsible for us to be in a situation where we're paying overtime unnecessarily. As such, we currently have 9 full-time patrolmen, and the request is presented to you all tonight for there to be 11. Just to clarify, the police commission is responsible for hiring the full-time police officers, promoting. If there was a opening for, say, sergeant or something like that, they're responsible for doing the testing and background checks and all that sort of thing for promotions. They're also involved in some cases, if necessary, disciplinary issues. So whereas our responsibility by state law is merely to define the structure of a department, it's up to the police commission to identify the eligible candidates and take them in the order in which they test. There are, I believe currently, Chief, there are 3
Correct.
officer, or 3 candidates, if you will. So it would be a situation where if we authorize the increase from 9 to 11 patrolmen, it doesn't mean they're all working at the same time, it just means that, you know, it still goes by the bargaining agreement issues and minimum of 2 on staff, or 2 on at all times, and certain things like that. But it allows us a little more latitude, so we're not overwhelming them with if there is an injury or call off time or whatever kind of thing like that, so that we're not burdening them or financially exposing ourselves to needless overtime. But if the board agrees to the increase from 9 to 11, then that allows the police commission to recognize the vacancy, if you will, of those 2 slots. And they can go through the process of notifying the first 2 candidates of the opening. And I believe at this point, they've already inquired of all 3, and they're all 3 still interested. And then the next step would be they can come in for some training, and they can do some, or it depends on what the background is already, I guess, right?
The next step in the process is to complete the remainder of the background check, have a physical done, and as long as the background check is clear and the physical is okay, then we can make a conditional offer of employment for that.
Okay, and at that point, they would also, sometime within the first year, they have to then go off training the academy.
Yes.
Okay, and that's a full-time academy as
Yes.
compared to the shorter part-time thing. So,
I'll make that motion.
second, Gonzalez and Reza, we've never had this before. That's the reason I'm taking the time to explain this, because we never had a commission that actually was responsible for doing it.
Discussion?
Sure.
I was under the impression from talking with the head of the commission, Amy Gerson.
Sure.
I thought it was going to be 3 full-time officers.
There's 3 available on the
Those
list.
3 were approved and were going to be appointed.
No, sir. No, sir. Over the last 3 years, whatever it's been, even talking to the chief, he's only requested 2 during that time. And at this point, I think it's prudent for us to take on 2. Daryl's done the research and numbers and everything else and validated the relevance financially, not to mention minimizing the wear and tear on our personnel. But he's identified the relevance financially. I don't know that we've done any analysis to find out if we added 3, what that does to that. So we can always address that again in the future for the 3rd individual, or, you know, it depends on what's available. We might find out that one of the first 2 that are made the offer for version might have taken another issue or taken another job, and they're no longer interested. There's only 3 on the list that have remained out. How many did we start with, Chief? 50?
49.
So out of the 49 candidates that originally signed up, we're down to 3 that are eligible. So it's hard to find good
Well,
candidates.
the overtime has been exorbitant. And Chief, let me ask you, is this going to, would 3 be better than 2 in your opinion as chief?
I'm not going to ask for more than I think we need or should pay for right now. When we had these staffing numbers in 2008, it reduced our overtime pretty dramatically.
So
Yeah, I
you
think
are
we can
answering
achieve-
it saying 2 is enough,
Yes, sir.
in your opinion?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's all I wanted to hear. That's what I want to hear.
Trustee Hearn, you had a question?
Chief, how long is the training academy?
Right now, it's at 12 weeks, and it may go to 14 by the time we actually get somebody signed.
So even if we pass this ordinance tonight, we're talking 4 months minimum before they're on the street?
The officers will be in a field training program for 10 weeks after they come back from the academy, so they're really not on their own for a pretty substantial amount of time.
Okay.
But there is going to be, as people are field trained, there will be 2 officers in the squad that will help us meet our minimums.
Okay. So it is a long process, even starting now?
Yes.
Okay.
But if we don't start now and we wait any longer, I mean, I can't predict what's going to happen with
Sure.
situation.
I understand. Now, have you seen the number of applicants drop in the recent few years?
Yes.
The pressure on police.
Not as many people are applying for police jobs because there's other jobs out there that don't require you to be criticized on a fairly consistent basis for doing your job. So
I understand.
there are a lot of other career paths people can take with a lot easier day.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. I'm sorry, we had a motion and a second, correct?
Yes, we did.
All right, roll call.
Gonzalez and Reese. Trustee Gray,
No.
Holston,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Graysick,
Yes.
and Gonzalez.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's all I have on my agenda.
Ordinance number?
Yes, correct.
I'm working on it. 1751.
Thank you. Mr. Bloomsbury, do you have?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one item tonight. Good evening, everyone. Back in on June the 8th, the village received the review for bids for the Monee roadway reconstruction project, and the bids were as follows. The Iroquois Paving Corporation was $1,809,252.50. Deed Construction Incorporated was $1,892,182.64. Due to the significant cost savings on the project, we recommend that the contract be awarded to Iroquois Paving. And with that, we would ask for a motion to approve the bid to Iroquois Paving in the amount of $1,809,252.50.
Before we make that motion, I'd like to clarify for public awareness. DJ, help me out on this. This is a project that is funded by the bond. Of course, any other grants, whatever you can find to help offset that. But primarily funded by the bond that we approved, that started last year, that's working this year, and as well as next year. This was part of a bid specs that were submitted, posted, I believe in the newspaper as well, that had the criteria available for anybody to review if they were interested. And this project, the scope of this project includes but not limited to the roads, the sidewalks, the stormwater management, west of Egyptian Trail, up to and including Polk on Court, Wilson, and Roosevelt. I just want to make sure we're all fully aware of what we're voting on. So, and there was a public hearing describing some of the specifics of that earlier today.
Which is also.
Correct. So, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the awarding of the bid to Iroquois Paving to oversee this project?
Second.
Holston and Gray, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston,
Yes.
Warren. Yes. Pop,
Yes.
Graysick,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
And Gray.
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Officials report. Public Works, Trustee Gray.
I have no report.
Parks and Recreation, Trustee Gonzalez.
Just one thing about Kids Day, just to remind everybody, Kids Day, Saturday, July 9th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Fireman's Park. There's flyer, I'm sure that's going out and up this week too. So we have, again, the Kids Parade, the Great Boudini, the Magic Show, Watermelon Eating Contest, everybody's favorite, Dave Rudolph and the Touch a Truck again, crafts games, and the world's longest water slide.
Monee's.
Well, Monee's largest slip and slide. And then two, and the same night too, don't forget, we have our next movies in the park at dusk. It's the movie Pixel. End of report.
Thank you. Finance with trustee Horn.
I do have quite a bit of material here, so I will go through it as quickly as possible, but I do want to make sure that is included. Number one, the village audit has been tentatively scheduled for the first week in August. And IDOT has also requested an audit for the 2013-2014 fiscal year. I'm assuming, Darrell, that's of our folks? Okay. Because of the work on the roads and so forth? All right. Thank you. Illinois budget battle continues into its second consecutive year with no plans for a state budget in sight. By law, an Illinois budget for fiscal year 2017 is supposed to be signed into law by July 1, 2016. I don't think that's going to happen, as far as I can tell. Here's some issues that could potentially affect the village. There are 25,000 Illinois jobs that could be lost along with the state's road construction season if that's not properly funded. More than 52,000 people are affected by cuts from the Will County Health Department. 9 service programs were suspended due to lack of funds. And MFT funds may be delayed, that's going to fuel tax funds. Finance Director Boliner met with multi-bank securities representatives in regards to investing our municipal assets into CDs with possibly a higher yield than what our village currently receives. The representatives from multi-bank securities would like to give a 15-minute presentation to the board at the next board meeting to explain how they can give assistance to the village. I would welcome that unless someone has concerns or so forth. Let's me know on that. But we'll put that into the agenda for next time. Now, how do capital assets affect fund balance and village value? The investment in capital assets include land, other improvements, machinery and equipment, and infrastructure. Infrastructure assets are items that are normally immovable and have value only to the village, such as streets, street lighting systems, and storm drainage systems. These items will appear on the income statements as expenses. However, these items will eventually be reclassified into the balance sheet that will then decrease expenses and increase the village's overall value. And I know right now the village's value is increased quite dramatically because of the projects that we have approved and moved forward on. Important dates to remember: July, the annual appropriation ordinance must be passed during the first quarter of the fiscal year in municipalities with populations of less than 500,000. In October, compensation of elected officials, including those of home rule units, must be fixed at least 180 days before the beginning of the terms of the officials whose compensation is to be fixed. And October 31, for municipalities having a fiscal year which begins May 1, the treasurer's report for the preceding year must be filed with the clerk by the end of October. The municipal clerk shall publish the account in a newspaper published in the municipality, if no newspaper is published therein, then a newspaper having general circulation. In municipalities with a population of less than 500, the account need only be published in 3 prominent places in the town. And then lastly, the property tax rebate program, that will be published. The details, particulars will be published in the next village newsletter. However, the cutoff date for applications would be December 16th of 2016. So it looks like you'll have at least I would imagine about 2 months to get that paperwork in, assuming when the next village newsletter, which would be the autumn or fall newsletter, probably be out in end of August, beginning of September.
The same information would be available on the website too, I'm sorry.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Business development with trustee Holster.
I'll give a very limited report. The project B that we previously have talked about is moving along very well. Not a lot that we can talk about publicly right now because it is a project that's being done privately or under, what's the right word?
Confidentiality.
Confidentiality agreement, thank you. But it is moving very well. Plats have been filed and recorded. A redevelopment agreement has been signed. There are some minor items to be addressed before closing, but the developer expects to close shortly, and to the point that a steel order is in process. So we would remind the trustees that, again, this is a confidential project at this point. However, it is moving along very well. End of report.
Building services, trustee Pop.
No report.
Public safety with trustee Raisik.
Yes, I got a couple things. From EMA, tomorrow, June 23rd, Monee Fire District, Monee Police Department, and Monee EMA will be conducting a joint training exercise at Fireman's Park. The training will be conducted by pilots from the Lifestar Critical Care Helicopter Transport Service. Classroom instruction will be followed by landing an actual helicopter at Fireman's Park. Emergency responders will be instructed on ground approach and emergency operations.
I believe that's been, the helicopter itself has been relocated. Where's that to?
It'll be at Eagle Fair South, Eagle Fair and County Fair.
Eagle Fair and Park Ground? Okay.
Yes.
And then from police, on June 9th, FTX for the Explorers went as planned. The Explorers worked cooperatively with the fire department and EMA to manage a multi-vehicle accident scene and write an accident report. It was very successful. And then again, tomorrow, June 23rd, the Explorers will again be training with the fire department and EMA on a Life Flight Air Rescue FTX. They will also get to experience a helo landing and take off, as well as learning how to prepare for the landing.
Good.
End of report.
Thank you.
Anthony, one question. What time is this, Anthony?
6. It starts at 5, ain't it?
5 o'clock's the classroom instruction and 6 o'clock is the
Is that open to the public or not?
public will account to see.
Well, I'm sure we.
But the classroom is.
It's a classroom, yeah, specifically
The personnel of those agencies. Well,
I'll be the patient.
okay, nothing else under officials report. Larry, do you want to go to executive session at this time? Would that be appropriate?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to go to executive session pertaining to the matter listed under item P, which would be matters either personnel, collective bargaining, public officers, real estate, litigation, whatever.
I'll entertain that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Raisik and Gray.
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Were you planning on doing old new business when we get back?
Sure. Well,
We have determined.
yeah, we'll let Larry do this thing.
Okay.
We'll do it correct.
Thank you.
So we're just jumping ahead to P and we'll do it.
Okay.
We have a motion, we have a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Grayson?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
And Holster.
And the time is now 7:08. And we will return, there'll be more business to attend to. Time is now 7:53 on Wednesday, June 22nd. I'll entertain a motion to return from executive session, please.
Make the motion.
Second.
Pop and Raisik, roll call, please.
Trustee Gray?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Horn?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Raisik?
Yes.
And Gonzalez?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Larry, at this point, I'll turn
Thank you, Mayor. Got 2 items for the board's consideration. The first item is the approval of the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year starting May 1st, 2016, ending the 30th day of April 2017. Pursuant to state statute, we had a public hearing this evening. There were comments made regarding the ordinance. It's up for the board's review and consideration.
Entertain a motion to approve the appropriation ordinance as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Holston and Gonzalez. Roll call, please.
Discussion, Mayor?
Sure.
I just would like the public to know that it's a balanced budget we're voting on, and items within that budget can change. Can be subject to change as long as we stay within the budget. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Raisik,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
and Gray.
No. Thank you, Mayor. The next item for consideration,
Excuse me, Larry, can we get a number from our clerk, please, on that ordinance?
1752.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, the next item for consideration for the board's review is a proposed intergovernmental agreement between the Will County Sheriff and the Village of Monee. This is an agreement that was, I believe, proposed by the Sheriff's Department, wherein they'll be processing certain warrants for the village. I believe the cost is set forth at $3,618.89 payable per year. They'll be processing certain warrants along with some transportation of prisoners. I believe this is an agreement that would be shared with all the various villages and towns that the Will County Sheriff has jurisdiction over. It's up for the board's review and consideration.
If I could just ask the chief to expound a little bit, this eliminates our need to, say, go to Florida or wherever else in order to recover somebody that's got a warrant.
Correct. The sheriff's department has in the past processed our warrants, and if they're out of state, they would send the personnel to go pick those people up. They took an average number from the number of warrants they served for us. That's how they came up with the 3618. And that does eliminate us having to go out of state and sending 2 officers to go pick up a warrant if somebody's been picked up. Because every warrant does say when you arrest somebody, you are hereby commanded to bring this person before, and it's usually whatever court of jurisdiction.
That also keeps us from having to invest in training and
Yes.
other issues in that area. I'll entertain a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement. I believe that'd be in the form of an ordinance or a resolution.
You could do a resolution, Your Honor. Just a motion or resolution would be, in this situation, I believe, serve the same purpose.
Which do you prefer?
Resolution.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll entertain that motion.
Raisik
Second.
and Gray.
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Have they charged us before?
No. And this is a service that the sheriff's department has stopped doing for local municipalities, and they put a price on it for everybody. And we're not the only municipality that's having to come into this MOU. It's being done with everybody. Bigger departments are paying a lot more money.
So they're just strapped for cash like everybody else, are we looking at?
I believe that's why we're paying
ways and
for it.
revenue for themselves?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Trustee Horn, you bring up a good point. My initial frustration with this is that municipalities are actually getting hit twice on the cost of this, because to process warrants for the unincorporated areas of the county, which are funded, if you will, by property taxes and things of that sort, is handled without any additional charge to those people in the unincorporated areas. I think it's almost a double taxation, if you will, that the county is taking upon themselves to penalize municipalities, when in fact that's where, there we talking about this, 80% perhaps of all the property taxes that are generated within the county that fund the sheriff's operations come from the incorporated parts of the county, not the unincorporated parts. and it could be significantly more than that even, but it seems disproportionate, much like, Chief, much like the animal control. Again, that's something that's typically funded based on the county level, but they charge us twice for that. Once because we're also contributing to the Will County tax base, but then also because they charge us as a municipality if we were to utilize their services. So something you should be aware of and voice your concerns as well on that matter to your county board members.
So would this be sort of ancillary or repercussions of not having a budget because there's not cash flow from the?
It could be, and I can't speak about the sheriff's budget specifically,
Yeah.
but my sense about this one, when I talked to Deputy Chief Ackerson, was that this is the only way they're gonna be able to provide these services based on the average number of warrants they process for us, which is between 9 and 11 a year for us.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Raisik,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
and Holston.
Yes.
Resolution number, sir.
2016-9.
Do we have anything in our old business? Okay, do we have anything in our new business?
I'd like to bring up the subject I brought up earlier tonight.
Okay.
I believe that we should be posting our meeting notices on the Vedette, which has changed their publication, the way they do it in the last year. They now give papers to everybody in the community, which is a good way to make sure we get the word out. I've had several people, including tonight, speak to me about concerns that they don't feel like putting it in the publication of the Chicago Tribune gets information to the entire village, and I would agree with that.
Okay. I know that was, what, a year and a half ago, Larry? Or, I don't know, Wayne, you might recall, when the board made a decision to go with Country Market at the time, the Herald Country Market, because they had every door direct distribution. The thing we run into, I think on certain things, it came down to, we had a calendar, or graph, if you would, we figured out based on the amount of time. We ran into time constraints, especially when it came to our meetings are typically on Wednesday. I think on some notices, that's fine, and I don't disagree. But when it's an issue of a developer coming in and saying, can I get in for this meeting? Michelle, help me out on this. When a developer comes in and say, I want to get in for a particular meeting, and there's a limited amount of time, we get 1 or 2 days of being able to present that information to the Daily Southtown.
Yes.
And if we go through it's Vedette now, used to be the Monee Monitor, there's an additional amount of time, I believe a week and a half almost. So it takes it from a 15-day requirement that we have to adhere to make it almost a full month when you look at the way it ends up playing out. So on certain things where we can predictably, I'll give you an example like the budget. We knew that enough in advance, then I tend to agree with you that we probably could or should at this point, now that the Vedette, Cornerstone Media has changed their delivery process and everything else. When we can, we probably should, but in the case of it's a timeliness issue, and if they could change your requirements, so because the Country Market had a 1 day or 2 day difference there, but it made all the difference because of when we have our meetings, is where that came into play. If there's any way that they could be different, absolutely, I'd rather have go to every door. You know, otherwise, sometimes we will be a constraint, but I don't disagree that from a policy standpoint, it's beneficial if time permits to get it to the every door method. Otherwise, the legal requirement would be a publication with local circulation.
I understand the, excuse me, I understand the legal.
So
My point is transparency.
Sure.
My point is people in the community are saying we're not getting this information. They're asking for it. I think we need to make every effort possible. And I'd like to see us direct the administration to make every effort possible to use the Vedette. because it does go to everybody in the community. And I think it's important that matters like what's going on here tonight with the roundabout and the budget and other things that have plenty of notice, there's no reason why we can't use that publication to put information out there for the public.
I agree with you, one exception, occasionally on timing. So, and that point taken, I think administration can take that into consideration, unless anybody else has an objection to that recommendation. Okay. Anything else under new business? Okay. At this point, we'll turn the meeting over to open to the public, non-agenda items. If you will come to the podium and give your name and address, please. The line is open.
Colette Rank 25828 Hoover Court. I probably could have done this while you were in session, but I don't know if that would have been appropriate. But you say you only have 9 full-time police personnel. Does that include the detective?
The detective is not a different rank, it is merely an assignment. So that is one of the 9.
It is one of the 9.
That is correct.
Oh, that's not very good. If he's one of the 9.
We have 2 sergeants and we have a chief, but as far as full-timers of the patrol, we have 9.
Okay.
Is that correct, Chief?
Yeah, and then so you want to bring it up to 11. So then how many's on each shift?
Minimum 2. Minimum 2 per shift.
For all of Monee?
Yes,
And you got the truck stop?
yes. But we try to have more, based on the needs of the shift, but we have a minimum staffing of 2 per shift.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anybody else under any? Okay. And we've already gone to executive session, no specific action regarding that. Time is now 8:06, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll entertain that motion.
Second.
Raisik and Horn, roll call please.
Trustee Pat,
Yes.
Raisik,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Holston, and Warren.
Yes.
Great, thank you all very much.